Hello, you are most welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Real Impartation Moment on Tuesday Night Anatomy with Daniel Okwan. Today's section, I quickly run with you the abducens nerve. Now get to know that the abducens nerve is the sixth cranial nerve. And one important thing that we know about this abducens nerve is that it supplies or it gives motor supply to only one muscle, one extra ocular muscle, and that's of course the lateral rectus muscle. Therefore, it is a motor nerve. But later on in our studies, we get to know that yes, it is not a purely motor nerve, so to speak, because yes, apart from giving motor supply to the lateral rectus muscle, it will also be carrying proprioception from this lateral rectus muscle. But yes, by and large, when you are asked to tell yes whether it's a sensory or motor, yes, go for motor nerve. Okay, and one thing that we know is that this nerve, yes, emerges from what we call the pontomedullary junction, but actually having its nucleus in the pons, which is of course having that kind of bend of the facial nerve inside it, the internal journey of the facial nerve going around it, producing an elevation. Okay, that's the facial colliculus. Therefore, when you are asked that where is this nerve emerging from, yes, what you have to say is that it's coming from the facial colliculus, from the pons, but it actually come out through what we call the pontomedullary junction. And so, without much ado, yes, at the end of this section, we should be able to tell a whole story, as regards the cause and of course the important relations regarding this nerve. So there we are. Yes, to start with, one thing that I want you to know is that yes, look at this one over here, the schematic representation. What you can see is that this is the nucleus, nucleus of what we call the abducens nerve. Now get to know that the nucleus of the abducens nerve resides in what we call the pons of the brainstem. So that is where I have it. Now one thing I want you to know is that yes, we've looked at the important relation already. Now you know that the motor nucleus of the facial nerve, yes, the facial nerve, the fibers that emerge from there, it winds around this this abducens nucleus, so that they will produce this slight protrusion over here or elevation over here, which we are calling it the facial colliculus. So that is one thing I want you to know, that this nerve is emergent from the facial colliculus. Now one thing I also told you is that yes, if this facial colliculus should get injured, then the first structure to be involved in the injury should be of course this facial nerve, the internal journey of the facial nerve, and not of course the abducens nucleus, because it's more safe in there. But of course, yes, the injury will eventually get to it. That's what you have to know. Yes, once the nerve comes out of there, one thing is that it is eventually coming out to go and supply what we call the lateral rectus of one of the extraocular muscles, and it's of course is within the orbit. So it means that it has to go through that kind of pathway to eventually get to this area. And so the first thing I want you to know is that this nerve, once it comes out, it ascends upwards. Yes, it ascends upwards. I will show you that one. Obliquely across, goes obliquely across, to go into what we call the cardinal sinus. Yes, eventually go into what we call superior orbital fascia to of course reach the eyeball. So that is what I want you to know. But over here now, this is the nerve. This is the abducens nerve. Now one thing that you have to know is that as it goes, as it ascends upwards, it meets one structure over here, one artery, which will run superficial to it, and the name of the artery is anterior inferior cerebellar artery. That's what the artery you have to know. One relation that you have to know is that as this nerve ascends upwards, yes, before it gets to what we call the petrocentral bone, before going to a canal we call Dorilis canal, I'll show you that one. Yes, it has to meet this artery and it runs superficial to it, on top of it, and that artery is anterior inferior cerebellar artery. That's one thing you have to know. Then beyond that, yes, it goes upwards, it continues upwards, then it meets what we call the petrous temporal bone. So let's say over here you have what we call the petrous temporal bone, the apex or the upper portion of the petrous central bone. It becomes related to it. But actually, before going to relate to this petrous central bone, on top of it there's a canal that this artery or this nerve will run through, and that canal is known as, Duralis canal. Yes, it also takes attachment from the upper portion or the apex of pituitary temporal bone. I'll be showing you that one, okay, pretty soon. So that is, one thing I have to know. Now, because it ascends upwards and it's related to what you call the pituitary temporal bone, it means that if there's any fracture, okay, to this, pituitary temporal, the apex of it, then what will happen is that, yes, it can cause injury to this nerve. Now, one important thing that I want you to also know is that because this nerve ascends upwards, yes, we already told you that, the fourth nerve, that's the trochlear nerve, it has the longest, intracranial course. My friend, because this nerve ascends upwards, yes, this is the nerve with the longest intradural course, because, yes, it goes through a lot of, the spaces in what you call the dura mater. Yes, it has the longest intradural course. One unique thing about this nerve. Okay, so that is, one thing that I want you to know. And then from there, yes, it wants to actually enter what you call the cavernous sinus. Now, last time I told you that, yes, there are some nerves which are related to the lateral wall of what we call the cavernous sinus. Yes, we mentioned the third nerve, the oculomotor nerve, we mentioned the fourth nerve, the trochlear nerve. We also mentioned the first division of the trigeminal nerve. That is, of course, the ophthalmic nerve. Okay, so that is, what we talked about. But my friends, this nerve is actually a content of this cavernous sinus. So it runs inside the cavernous sinus. That is, of course, the abducens nerve. But it's not only the only structure in the cavernous sinus, but it's also moving alongside this artery. That is the internal carotid artery. So one thing that we find is that the internal carotid artery is a bit upwards and medial to this abducens nerve. Okay, so it means that this abducens nerve is on the inferolateral aspect of this internal carotid artery. Okay, then from there, yes, it comes out, it wants to enter the orbit, and it's doing that through what we call the superior orbital fascia. Okay, so that is what I want you to know. Now, because it's related, okay, it's located at the inferolateral aspect of this internal carotid artery, then it also makes sense that, yes, you also say that if there is, that kind of aneurysm, okay, internal carotid artery aneurysm, then what will happen is that it could compress against this nerve, and of course that injury can occur to that nerve. And whenever, one thing I have to know is that whenever there's injury to this nerve, then it means that, the name is abducens nerve. That is going to cause abduction, okay, to this eyeball through the contraction of this lateral rectus muscle. Okay, so that is what I want you to know. Okay, so that is an important thing that you should know. So let me just use another image to show you some other things that I didn't show you. Yes, I told you that emerging from what we call the pons at the level of the facial colliculus, I have what we call the abducens nucleus, and then the fibers, okay, which are motor fibers coming out of it. Yes, through this junction between of what the pons and the medulla oblongata. So the pontomedullary junction. Okay, that is where it will be passing through. We said the nerve ascends upwards. Okay, as you can see, it ascends upwards. But I told you that it will be related to an artery. Okay, that is superior posterior cerebellar artery. Okay, so that is one thing that I want you to know. Then it ascends upwards. Then before it will be related. Okay, so I told you that it will be related to what we call the apex of the pituitary temporal bone. But there's a canal, a ligamentous canal, which it has to run through it, and that canal is known as Duralis canal. Okay, so that is what I want you to know. Now, from Duralis canal, now I told you because the apex of pituitary temporal bone is located over here. If there is any fracture to this pituitary temporal bone, then it can cause injury to this nerve. But there's another important relation that you have to know, which I have to tell you. Because this nerve ascends upwards obliquely, then what will happen is that this nerve is commonly injured when there's increased intracranial pressure. Now, what do we mean by that? If the pressure inside the cranial cavity increases, then what will happen is that, yes, this pons will will be pushed downwards, so to speak. And once it pushes downwards, then it will cause this nerve to become stretched. And because this nerve is related to the apex of the pituitary temporal bone over here, then that nerve can be injured over here. Okay, so that is one thing I want you to know. But what did we say? Yes, beyond that, it goes into what we call the cavernous sinus. Okay, cavernous sinus, it becomes a content of the cavernous sinus. Then emerging from there, yes, it wants to enter the orbit, goes and supply what we call lateral rectus muscle, but it is doing so by emerging through what we call the superior orbital fascia to get in there. Okay, so these are the important things that I want you to know regarding, of course, this abducens nerve. So I hope you find this meeting helpful. Please share with friends to educate them on these things. I'm very grateful for your time this evening. Have a good night, all of you, and may the good Lord richly bless you. Amen.